Hey, my name is Jude, and this match is really gonna happen, huh? So WWE is officially on the road to Summerslam, and there is one dream match that pretty much all wrestling fans wanted to see come to life at the biggest party of the summer, and that is the almighty WWE Champion Bobby Lashley defending his WWE title against the Beast Incarnate Brock Lesnar. And really, that is an exciting matchup. It's a huge special attraction match between two monstrous badasses that feel legit, but unfortunately, WWE couldn't work out a new deal with Brock Lesnar. So with Lesnar being gone, WWE could have done something intriguing for Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam, like maybe have Big E cash in his Money in the Bank title shot against Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam in a legit fashion, thus setting up a fresh title match with a built-in story, with Big E wanting to exact revenge on the Almighty for what he did to his good friend Kofi at Money in the Bank. But instead, WWE decided to do what they always do, and that is bring in an old dude from the past. And in this case, Goldberg! And so Goldberg returned on the 19th of July 2021 edition of Monday Night Raw. He confronted Bobby Lashley, got into his face and yelled, "I'm next!" making it very clear that he wants a shot at the WWE Championship, ignoring the fact that he hasn't earned a title shot, and the last time he wrestled for a World Championship, he lost. Clean. But he's a legend, so I guess he gets a free pass. Now, I'm recording this on the 25th of July, and as of this moment, Bobby Lashley has declined Goldberg's challenge via social media. Obviously in storyline, because based on all the reliable wrestling news sites, Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg for the WWE Championship will be taking place at SummerSlam. And well, the reaction from wrestling fans was, yeah, not good. But putting that aside, there are some positives with this matchup. When Goldberg returned, he got a huge reaction from the crowd in Dallas, Texas. Say what you want about Goldberg, he is still immensely over with the general audience, more so than the current wrestlers, which is really depressing. And while he's up there in age, Goldberg is still in pretty damn good shape. And that visual of Goldberg and Lashley having a face-off, yeah, that feels like a main event match, because you got two big alpha male badasses, one of them being the almighty WWE champion Bobby Lashley, who just dominates everyone in his wake. Then you got Goldberg, the legendary bald-headed man who just runs over people like a freight train with explosive power. And both of them are gonna battle it out to find out who is the most dominant force and who should be the rightful WWE champion. So the characters are there, they feel legit, and generally speaking, the fans are still into them. And now we just need a compelling storyline that culminates into an epic match at SummerSlam. And I think those two things can be done. So this is how I would book a story and match that could make Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg work. So we're gonna start on the 26th of July 2021 edition of Monday Night Raw. Goldberg comes out, likely to a big pop, grabs a microphone, and says something along the lines of this: "Last week, I came out here and challenged Bobby Lashley to a match for his WWE title, and a lot of people didn't respond kindly to my challenge. And you know what? I get it. The last time I wrestled for the World Championship, it was on the Royal Rumble pay-per-view earlier this year, and I lost, fair and square. Drew McIntyre beat me, clean as a whistle, and he is one tough son of a bitch. He earned my respect that night, and that loss taught me something. I learned that the world title contenders in WWE today are some of the baddest men on this planet. And so, I need to be even stronger than I ever was. Ever since the Rumble, I've been working my ass off every day, training physically and mentally to get into the best shape of my life. And now, I'm ready. I am ready to get into this ring and tear through the very best that this company has to offer and become the WWE World Champion. But unfortunately, the almighty WWE Champion Bobby Lashley declined my challenge. Not only that, he declined it on Twitter. You ask me? That ain't good enough, son. So Bobby Lashley, I know you're sitting back there, so why don't you grow a set, come to this ring, face me, and answer my challenge like a man. Then Bobby Lashley comes out. He's got his nice suit, and his manager MVP is walking beside him. He's got the WWE title wrapped around his waist, and he's got a microphone in his hand. Lashley walks down to the ring, stops just in front of the ring apron, and says something along the lines of this. Goldberg, you old man, all that talk about training hard and learning a lesson, that's all bullshit. However, you weren't lying about your loss to Drew McIntyre earlier this year at the Royal Rumble. Now Drew, yeah, he's a tough dude. A tough dude whose ass I whipped at WrestleMania, WrestleMania Backlash, and at Hell in a Cell. Goldberg, you failed to beat Drew at the Royal Rumble, the same man that I decimated 3 times. So if I can do that, what chance do you have against me? Then Goldberg, to the surprise of everyone, just nods in agreement with Lashley. And then he says, "You're right, Lashley. You're right. I lost to Drew McIntyre and you beat him numerous times. There's no denying that. But that was 6 months ago. I am far different from the man I was back then. And now I am fully prepared to beat any man on this planet and become the world champ. And you know what? I think you're scared, Lashley. I think you're afraid to step into this ring with me because you know that I can paste your ass all around this ring." Lashley, understandably so, is looking a bit miffed at Goldberg's remarks. And then he just starts to laugh in a condescending way, and he's just like, "Alright, Bill. Alright." Lashley gives his WWE title to MVP. He tells him to stay where he is. Bobby then gets into the ring and stands face to face with Goldberg. And then Lashley goes, "Goldberg, first of all," and then BAM! Lashley blindsides Goldberg, just battering his microphone into the man's face. Lashley then starts to lay into Goldberg, just smashes him down into the mat. Bobby then goes to the corner, then sets up for his finishing move, the spear, with a look of murderous intent. As Goldberg gets up and turns around, Lashley charges across the ring, but then suddenly, boom! Goldberg retaliates by hitting Lashley with a spear of his own. Goldberg gets up, does his, he does his little face taunt that gets the crowd going wild, and then Goldberg grabs Lashley and sets him up for his own finishing move, the jackhammer suplex. But then Lashley quickly gets out of it and then slides out of the ring. Goldberg just starts taunting Lashley at the outside for his act of cowardice. While Lashley's on the outside, he's nursing his ribs, but his face tells the whole story. He's looking like, "I've been embarrassed in front of thousands of people and thousands more watching at home. And I've been embarrassed by an old man. I'm going to murder him." Lashley grabs a mic and says, "You want a shot at my title, Goldberg? Fine, you've got it. At Summerslam, you and I will fight for the WWE Championship. And I promise you this, Goldberg, I'm going to tear you apart." Goldberg smiles at this, and then he and Lashley have another stare down as the segment comes to a close. So for the next 2 weeks, Lashley and Goldberg are going to be kept far apart from each other. During those 2 weeks, we're going to get highlight reels of Goldberg training hard for his match. The highlight reels show off the intense workouts that Goldberg is going through to prepare for his big fight. While that is happening, Bobby Lashley is on Raw and he's just murdering people in non-title singles matches. Literally, book Lashley in exhibition squash matches where he's just mauling his opponents like nothing. This way, both guys are being built up like monsters heading into SummerSlam, thus elevating the excitement for this big matchup. And for the Go Home Raw show, which will be the 16th of August, the main event will be one more face-to-face confrontation between Bobby Lashley and Goldberg. There'll be security guards surrounding the ring to ensure that things play out nice and smooth. And Lashley and Goldberg just start laying into each other verbally on the mic. You can make it like an MMA press conference where you got the two fighters trash talking each other and then the grudge keeps building up. Play it out like that. You can throw an MVP, have him throw some jabs at Goldberg just to really spice things up, and then the tension just builds and builds and builds until Lashley loses it and shoves Goldberg. Immediately, the security guards just rush in and separate the two men as quick as they can before Goldberg can retaliate. But these guards, they're nothing compared to Lashley and Goldberg, and the two of them just start beating the crap out of them. They use their immense power to just throw the security guards out of the ring like little toys. And once the smoke clears, Lashley and Goldberg have one more little stare down before they just collide, and then they just start laying into each other with rights and lefts. This leads to the entire Raw locker room to come out, and they rush into the ring and they just peel the two men apart, just to show off that Lashley and Goldberg are just so goddamn powerful that it takes a ton of wrestlers to keep them apart. Lashley and Goldberg are just hurling more insults at each other, screaming in each other's faces while being held back by the Raw locker room as the show comes to a close. And now we get to the match itself at SummerSlam. The almighty WWE Champion Bobby Lashley defending his championship against the returning and reinvigorated Goldberg. The match goes for about 5 minutes because that's all Goldberg can do before he gets really gassed. And right from the get-go, it is just a super titan hoss fight. The match looks like it's going to start with the two men locking up, but then Lashley ducks under Goldberg, grabs him by the waist, picks him up, and just smashes him back down with a big power move. Lashley then follows up with two more power moves, like maybe this one, and this one. You know, just to exemplify the power and might of Bobby Lashley. Then Lashley goes to the corner and sets up for a spear. As Goldberg gets up and turns around, Lashley charges across the ring, but just like on Raw, Goldberg meets him halfway and then BAM! Hits him with his own spear. Lashley quickly rolls to the outside, he's clutching his ribs, but in the background we see Goldberg exit the ring and he starts running towards Lashley. As Bobby turns around, boom! Goldberg hits him with another big spear. The crowd go nuts for this, and we see Goldberg doing his face taunt thing again to get the crowd more hyped up. Goldberg chucks Lashley into the ring, and then he sets up for his jackhammer finishing move. He goes for it, but then Lashley plants himself down, preventing Goldberg from lifting him up. Then Lashley uses his mighty strength to just shove Goldberg back towards the ropes. As Goldberg rebounds off the ropes, Lashley, boom, takes Goldberg down with a big spear. Lashley just scrambles for the cover and the ref goes 1, 2, no! Goldberg kicks out at 2.5. Bobby is looking pissed, and then he immediately locks Goldberg into his submission finishing move, the Hurt Lock. Goldberg tries to fight out of it, but Lashley is squeezing the hold on tighter and tighter. Goldberg has nowhere else to go, and it looks like he's gonna pass out. But then Goldberg taps into his inner strength and he just fires up. He starts resisting the pain, he's getting back to his feet, and then all of a sudden, Goldberg, boom! He just tosses Lashley over his shoulder, breaking the submission. As Lashley gets back up, he turns around and then boom! Goldberg hits Lashley with another big spear. Goldberg just shakes off the pain from the Hurt Lock, and then he signals for the jackhammer finishing move. Goldberg sets up the jackhammer, and he actually hits it this time. He just powers up Lashley, and then he slams it back down with authority. Goldberg goes for the cover, the ref goes 1, 2, no! Lashley kicks out of the jackhammer at 2 3/4. Goldberg is looking shocked that this happened, but he's a veteran, so he brushes that shock to the side, he goes back to the corner and sets up for another big spear. Lashley is just struggling to get back to his feet, and Goldberg is just in the other corner, silently waiting for his prey. As Lashley turns around, Goldberg goes for another spear. But then Lashley catches Goldberg halfway, picks him up, and then he slams him down with a big one-handed spine buster. Goldberg is writhing in pain on the mat while the crowd go crazy that this happened. Goldberg crawls to the ropes and then uses him to get back on his feet, but his back is still turned from Lashley. The Almighty takes advantage of this, he rushes towards Goldberg, and then boom! He just smashes Goldberg in the back of the head with a big running forearm. Goldberg crashes to the mat in a heap, but there was still life in him. He crawls to the corner and he struggles to get back on his feet. Then as Goldberg gets back up, he turns around to another massive spear from the waiting Bobby Lashley. Lashley drags Goldberg into the middle of the ring and then locks in the Hurt Lock once again. Lashley puts all of his strength into this hold and he just squeezes and wrenches tighter and tighter and tighter. Goldberg tries to fight back, but after all the damage that he suffered throughout the match, he just can't break it. Eventually, Goldberg just slumps and then he slowly but surely passes out. The ref then calls for the bell and awards Bobby Lashley the victory over Goldberg by submission. Yes, Lashley should 1000% beat Goldberg in this match. Bobby's going to be one of your main event guys that's going to carry this company in the foreseeable future, so it just makes sense to have him beat a part-time legendary superhero in Goldberg on a big stage like Summerslam. And don't just have Lashley beat Goldberg, have him decimate the legend in such monstrous fashion. That way you immensely elevate Lashley's star power in the eyes of the general fans that'll be watching this pay-per-view. So after the match, Lashley just stands over the prone body of Goldberg and we get a nice visual of Lashley standing tall over the legend, posing with his WWE title, looking like a main event badass. So that is how I would book the story and match between Bobby Lashley and Goldberg. Now, this is all pie in the sky fantasy booking stuff. I mean, in reality, WWE is pretty inept these days in creating compelling storylines with their wrestlers. But fingers crossed that WWE pulls out a miracle and actually creates a compelling storyline and an epic match between Bobby Lashley and Goldberg that hopefully in the end makes Bobby Lashley a main event superstar. So that is pretty much my thoughts in how Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg could work. If you have any thoughts, feel free to lay them down in the comment section below. But that's all I got. Until next time, be well, be safe, and be happy. See you later.